Hey guys, Thetcglover here, how you doing today? So, following on from my last video, which was like the most successful video I have ever made in my entire life. Thank you everyone who liked it, everyone who subscribed. I'm not going to let you guys down. I know that I got a hell of a lot of subscribers from it, but I hope you guys really enjoyed the video because it was a hell of a lot of fun to make. But anyway, we're going to go back to Yu-Gi-Oh now. So let's have a look at Yosenju. So Yosenju are a pretty cool archetype. It's definitely the cheapest archetype you can build from the Secret Forces. If you don't feel like making Necros, this deck is a pretty decent one. There are two different variants that you can go with the deck. There's the Pendulum one where you make dieback and then you just bounce stuff and then attack, and it's pretty decent. But the best variant realistically is going to be the Yosenju Stun variant, where you just summon level 4s, attack, bounce back. You set Vanity's Emptiness, you set Macro Defissure, and so on and so on. So I play the Stun version. It's not as fun as the Pendulum one, but I feel like in terms of actually winning games, playing rated, actually, putting pressure on the opponent, it does a better job. So I feel like in this, the examples that I want to show you of replays that I gathered, I played the Stun variant, and generally I can show you about how it builds advantage, and generally it's just a good deck, and I really, really enjoy it, and it's really cheap as well. So anyway, the first one I do is Yosenju versus Hero. I can do them in any order, because it doesn't really describe anything in particular. So anyway, you can see here that his hand was pretty mediocre, but I started off pretty decent. I made Thunder King because I didn't have two Yosenjus in my hand, otherwise I would have done that, probably made a Tiger King. But of course, I had Macro and Compulse set, so, we're pretty good. So he warning the Camera 1, I believe it's Camera 1, so he goes into Acid, and I Macro to make sure his Bubble Man gets banished, otherwise he can get it back later. And because I was thinking this is a Call the Horn today, he'd be able to do double, So he has March Change again. I MST his thing, silly me. So I attack, and his Compulsory is completely dead, and that's one of the things that I want to talk about quickly. One thing about Yosenjus, and the reason why they're so good at doing what they do in terms of stun, is obviously one is that they can go into Wind Xyz like Lightning Chidori, and they can make some other stuff like Harpy's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, etc. So they have that sort of stuff, but one of the other benefits is that because of the fact they go back to the hand, and because of the fact that they kind of vomit on the field, like a Pendulum summon for example, do their stuff and then they go back, it means like there's a lot of cards in your opponent's deck which do nothing towards the deck. All the Vanity's Emptiness that they run, and the Compulsory, and certain things like Bottomless, it doesn't do anything against the deck because they can just sort of work around it without having to actually play differently. So the deck kind of has a lot of inbuilt ways to deal with really, really strong cards that we all play in our decks. So at this point we're playing 1-for-1 here, and obviously he drew Form Change, which I don't play anymore in my hero deck. I drew into the Secret Move, which obviously is really decent, but sometimes it doesn't work out. I can understand why some people dropped it down to 2, because sometimes you just don't see it when you want to. So fortunately I actually managed to explode here, and I attacked and he tried to Compulse, and I Secret Move to make sure that I get a search off Camera 3. So Camera 3 gets me the other one, and generally when you have one or the other, you generally just search for the one that you don't have, so that you can actually have all three, and then you can just shuffle them back. So if you did actually have a way to stop this being summoned, then I would have, I still would be quite happy that I had the cards. So I just kept topping into really good stuff. So Chidori made sure that the next two cards that he drew, the next two cards would always be the same ones to make sure that I sealed my win, So Chidori is really good like that. Another one is going to be Yosenju against the Tellarknight. I think this is a pretty decent example of Yosenju's grinding, because obviously Yosenjus have a capacity to OTK by just summoning 4 different Yosenjus, including Thetcglover, the one that boosts attack, and then you attack with all 4, and then you make double Cowboy for game, and it's exact damage or something ridiculous like that. So Kamitachi, or Kama 2, and Secret Move, make sure that his Alpha goes into a neg because he loses 2 cards. And he managed to make up his advantage back by making sure that he mirror forced my stuff, so therefore I was suffering. But I made sure the duality, and then I was going to drop Thunder King. So I go and get myself another duality, drop Thunder King and attack. And he takes it. He knows that at this point this Thunder King is going to be a problem if he starts drawing into Deneb, but he does draw into Fiendish Chain, he does use it very quickly, so I do attack. But fortunately I have Duality to follow up, so I can actually now Duality. But if he MST'd this Fiendish Chain, I would have been in a much worse spot, because I'd be losing a lot of cards. So I Duality into Tenki and he Mind Crushed it. But that's okay, I'd rather he Mind Crush this than something else like a monster. So I'd have this, and I'm starting to push through. So at this point we're playing a grindy game now, and he's hoping to draw into into some kind of out here, and he didn't draw into anything. He has Call the Haunted. You know, I think he does use it right now. We'll use it in a minute. So he uses Call the Haunted to summon Alsam. And it use compulsory to shuffle back the Kamatachi, which allows me to summon the other one, which allows me to re-summon back Kamatachi again. So I can just keep doing this. It's really, really sweet. So I snatch Steel and I miss. So send over Alpha, make sure that he doesn't take a neg. And we're back to the same position as we were before. So he keeps drawing into his spells and traps. So at this point I'm grinding up better than he is because I'm just topping monsters left and right. I mean, obviously Yosenju and Stern Knights play a very similar number of monsters, but realistically you're going to be playing... It depends, you know, if either one doesn't top monsters, then the other one starts to win and you start making better trades and so on, you know. So he alphas my Raigeki. So I'm fine with that because it means I can go in and then make Cowboy for game. So he scoops. And Cowboy is by far one of the best cards in this deck. So don't forget it. Another one is going to be against Six Samurai. I like this match because it was like I had the perfect hand, right? I had the perfect hand to deal with the field that he was about to make, and you get to see why. It's really sick. Both of these bouncing effects come into play here, and it's really, really disgusting. So let's take a look at what he's doing here. So he goes and makes Shien, and he goes and gets a draw off Librarian, and he gets one Bushido counter off thing. So here I've got D-Fissure. Of course I can't use my MST because Shien would negate it. So I bounce both of his monsters back. I make sure to MST his card first. Bounce it up and attack and get myself a free card. And at that point he realizes how far he's behind, and I could just do attack with this one, and then I could do Cowboy and basically bring him down to literally 0. So I win, right? That's fair, right? So that was pretty easy. I think I'll do the Yang Xing one. It was pretty one-sided on this match, but I feel like it's a good example of you know, dealing with Yang Xing is pretty simple. But he obviously is playing Jiaotu, not Jiaotu. He's playing the level 5 or level 6, which no one really plays. So it's not really credible as an excuse, as a reason. You know, it's not a valid replay to be honest. But you know, it's still worth mentioning anyway because it's something different. So yeah, that's it. Tao Ti. So. I go and put my stuff back in. Obviously at this point I'm like, oh no, but I've got Mirror Force, so I'm good. So he goes and makes Yazi, which gets Mirror Force because I can't Phoenix Chain it, otherwise I would have. Because then I could have just bounced it earlier with Kamatachi. So Polar Duality, and I go and get myself a Tenki. Yeah, I feel it's better to just go and get myself a monster rather than stealing my opponent's because, you know, I will eventually have to give it back if he has an MST. But basically I splurge out the whole field and I win that way. So that's pretty sweet, right? That's fair. I would say the Yosenju Mirror is another one to show. The match is pretty... it's okay. Like, both of our variants are exactly the same, so it's basically who draws the better cards, you know. And if you play your deck wrong, then that's fine as well. So at this point I know that I can't stop him too well. I have Macro, I've got Mirror Force, so I was waiting until I had a better thing to do. So I MST to make sure that I could Polar Duality. And I go and get myself Camera 1, which goes and gets me Camera 3. And I go and attack, and he Book of Moons, and I Secret Technique to make sure that my search was going to happen. So I go and get myself Sujik. And so at this point my hand's looking pretty solid. I've got a pretty nice thing going on here. So we Kamatachis and I take the damage because there's no point me Mirror Forcing it. Yeah, so I have the whole gang here and it's pretty sweet. He secret moves. I'm like, that's fine, man. That's fine. That's fine. I can keep going. I'm good. So he resummons all of his monsters, but at this point I can now Mirror Force. So if I did it earlier, then I wouldn't have been able to stop this guy, and it probably would have put me in a much worse position. So I summon all of my friends here, and I go get myself Todori to make sure that I can stop his stuff. And turns out his face down was Emptiness, which he didn't use, and Dark Hole. So at this point, I was just gonna basically beat him up. But to be honest, he could have used the Dark Hole on his turn because I didn't target the Dark Hole. So yeah. It's not like he was going to lose, but he scooped anyway. So, you know, you may as well just keep playing until the very end, really. So, the next one is Necros. And, of course, this is one that didn't play out for very long because I basically got amazing hand. He game one shared ride. Like, okay, dude, if you want to play shared ride, even though no one really plays that much anymore, whatever, dude. So I had Forbidden Lance in my deck at one point, but I took it out because it wasn't seeing really enough stuff happening. I was realizing that Secret Move does a better job, and there wasn't really anything that I needed to protect it with, because generally they would wait until I overextended, then Mirror Forced, or they would Torrential, and then I'd be in a position where my Forbidden Lance does nothing. So I'd rather just commit and then do Secret Move instead, and use it for a different spot for something else. And so yeah, that was pretty easy. So I had Dimensional Fissure, and there was nothing really he could do about it because all of his stuff was banished, and he couldn't get himself another mirror. So that was pretty broken. And the last one I want to show you, which actually happened about half an hour ago, was against Spirit Beast, and it went on for quite a while, not too long, but it was a good example of what happens when you put them into a top decking situation and they end up winning. So it was really annoying. But basically I played it pretty decent. I think there was one point here where I should have summoned both of these guys and pushed them for more damage, but I didn't. So I just boosted him up instead and I attacked over it, because I wasn't quite sure what I was facing here. You know, I wasn't quite sure what to do, because I haven't really played against the deck thoroughly enough. But I don't expect the matchup to be that big of a deal. So I summoned Kamatachi and I kind of went in here to try and push some damage in. But this guy, 2000 wall, kind of annoying. So I make Tiger King here because I don't have Secret Move. So I thought just protecting myself with a big monster would be a better idea. So at this point, I was feeling pretty confident. He goes and makes himself a Pelio, and it attacks over this, and I can't stop it with Phoenix Chain because that's what it does. So I Vanity's Emptiness here. So I felt pretty happy. I was feeling quite confident here because there's not much he can do. So I MST. I shouldn't have done it really. Basically, I did hit a Snatch Steal, which would have affected me a lot later on. But realistically, I really should have just kept the Vanities going, and it may have really helped my chances of successing here, because he has an Emergency Teleport, which he's about to use. And if I just, you know, didn't do that, then I might have been okay. So Emergency Teleport. And this goes and gets himself banished, but that's fine because it does that stuff. So Bond of the Spirit Piece was drawn, which is a really dead card at this point. He sends Pink Dolphin, so that's annoying, but you know, because it kind of banishes itself, and then you can banish one spirit card from your hand. That's pretty dumb. Does some dumb stuff. So at this point, I was feeling pretty okay because I was getting draws of this guy, so I had a pretty good thing going on here. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm actually really ahead on cards right now, and I've got Secret Move, and I've got loads of stuff here. So I'm feeling pretty good. Summons went, and I didn't realize this, but I Fiendish Chained, right? And then he booked it, summoned the other one, which is fine, and then he can actually fusion with face downs. I actually didn't know that. I didn't think it was working the same way. So he does some Candlehawk thing here, which actually gets him about 4 cards or 3 cards or something ridiculous, which is really, really dumb. So he keeps doing it. And he adds loads of cards to his hand, and he puts all his stuff back in the graveyard, which is really annoying because I can't do a thing about it, and at this point Snatch Steal isn't doing much work for me here. So he gets himself loads and loads of cards, right, and then he ends with a Pelio, which is really annoying. But of course he sets himself up with Ambush, Combination, and Bond, so he's going to do some really ridiculous play here. So I had all this stuff here because I know I've got Secret Move, so I've got to execute this turn perfectly, otherwise it's not going to work out. So I end up letting him summon all this stuff because I know he's going to try and ambush, right? So he Apelios and then Bonds to try and summon Dolphin, and then I Snatch Steal his level 4 with the intention of using Chidori, and so I Secret Move here. Sorry, Chidori, and he Dolphins his 2 cards back, right? It's annoying, but what are you going to do? So this guy's too big, so I can't get over it, but I do make up Emerald. And I draw into Raigeki because I thought if I Emerald, I could set up my late game a lot better because he had nothing. So I could eventually just keep my hand. So I was thinking there was a Raigeki to get, there was a few other cards I could have gotten, and it would have helped me that way. So, you know, this is one of those points, right? So I end my turn, right? So he's about to draw, and I'm thinking, what kind of stuff can he get here? He can get any of the Spirit Tamers, but all of them are in his graveyard. He's only got a couple of them left. So I was feeling quite confident at this point that he could draw any back row, he could draw anything, and I could just go and Daigusto Emerald again. And then look what happens when he draws. He draws the out. He draws the freaking out. It's so annoying, and he actually goes straight in and takes both of mine out. And at this point, I'm in top deck mode, and there's nothing I can do. And he Candlehawks, and he goes and gets everything back again because he's got the targets for it. So he keeps doing Candlehawk here. Goes himself ambush and stuff, and at this point I realized that the Candlehawk combo was gonna make me lose. So I go into top deck, I Tenki, And at this point, I was just going to hope and do some damage directly. So there's nothing I can do about it. It was a real shame because I thought it was playing out pretty well, but he top decked the perfect card, and it was really shameful. You know, because I'm glad I was going to Castle the card back instead of Daigusto Emerald, but I thought it would increase his chances of drawing into one of those outs. So he attacks me and finishes me off, and he MSTs me as well. So yeah, that's all the replays I want to show you. So Yosenju is a pretty cool deck, and sometimes it can get swarmed pretty bad, but if you do have the secret move, you can actually make questionable plays, and then your opponent thinks, oh, why is he doing that? He's obviously playing into my back row here, and then you secret move, or you have even 2 secret moves, and then he plays wrong because he thinks you've only got one of them, for example. The deck has some other things, like Chidori is really strong. I go into it almost every game. Cowboy is really strong. It's just about calculating numbers with Cowboy, so you make sure that you do it right. And I would say Castle is pretty strong, and Diamond Crab King, I've gone into it once or twice to get over something big. And overall, you know, because of Yosenju, they basically let you run 15 different rank 4s in your deck, in your extra deck, so you get a lot of variety about what you want to make. So it has a lot of versatility with dealing with the meta. I do run D-Fissure, and I do run Macro, and I do run all of that stuff because you kind of need it, otherwise the deck dies. So it's really frustrating that it's just floodgate.deck, but at the same time, the deck has a lot of versatility, and it's not going anywhere very soon, because compared to something like Evil Swarm, it has a lot more versatility because of Kamma 2's effect to bounce. So stuff like that is what makes the deck really strong, and it will stay strong for the foreseeable future. It's getting more support, so I would recommend for you to look into that if you're thinking about building a deck, because the new support is actually pretty decent. But don't play the Pendulum variant if you actually care about winning games at all, because I've tried it and it's really inconsistent. You won't see it happening very often. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Don't forget to leave me a comment and like and subscribe and all that stuff. So thanks for watching, and until next time, the Thetcglover is out.